Well, hi there, folks. Welcome back to Mossy Roots Farm. I sound a little different because this is a voiceover. So in this video, I want to show you guys what I seeded, how I seeded, all of that, because this was our paddock for the sacrifice paddock. So I got my Tidy Cats bucket, I got my cultipacker, and I'll show you guys the spreader here in a second. The cultipacker is just some old thing that I had sitting around, and yeah, I could put some weights on it. I could have put water barrels or whatever I wanted to make it work a little bit better, but the ground is so dry in some spots and so wet in others, I don't think I could have actually moved it, which is also why I'm having to use the four-wheeler. Now, the seeder I'm using is just one of those, like, I think this one's like a Cyclone brand or something, but you can still get these today. They're just little hand seeders. You just dump some seed into the bag, and then you spin the crank, and you can adjust how much seed comes out and how far it throws based on how far you've got the little valve open. And I have my seed in my Tidy Cats bucket, and no, I'm not seeding Tidy Cats. It is like a clover with some bluegrass and fescue and brome or some other stuff like that. It's a nice little mixture that I had NRCS do up for me. It's supposed to be kind of a dual purpose mixture. A little bit of pasture resilience with some hayfield growth kind of a sort of thing. I wanted it because I will be grazing. My plan is to graze every single inch of my farm at some point. However, I'm not there yet, So for right now, the hayfield side doesn't really matter because this is all pasture. But I'm showing you here how I was filling it up. This actually worked fairly well with the cat litter bucket. It would have been better if I put it on the four-wheeler, but then I couldn't have shown you guys because the four-wheeler was being my cameraman. And I don't actually know how much I seeded. So this was like 4/10 to a half an acre, basically. And I think when I did the mix up, it wanted like, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds per acre, I think. So realistically, that whole bucket should have been used on this piece. However, I didn't do certain patches, and you will see that here in a minute, that I intentionally skipped certain areas of the farm lot here. Now, why in the world would I skip sections? Well, first of all, I wanted to try out some sorghum sedan. I don't believe I will get a chance to try it out this year, but I didn't know that when I made the video. So I was going to leave some areas where there wasn't grass seed, and I was only doing that because I wanted to show a good true difference between the grass seed and the sorghum sedan seed, to see the coverage, to see the growth, to see maybe the forage density. And if I would have put sorghum into my grass seed or grass seed into my sorghum, then it wouldn't have been a good true comparison. And now I really shouldn't have done what I did here if I was really doing a good true comparison, because as you see, I basically missed the left and right side of this paddock. I didn't put as heavy down or even any at all. Now, even though I didn't do the sorghum, this is still going to be a good test. I was under the impression at one point that seeding is pointless. And it may still be, because I have some shorts of this exact paddock, like a month, 2 months later kind of a deal, a couple weeks and a month later, something like that. So if you guys want to see how this paddock has progressed, definitely check out my shorts. But the shorts showed a lot of first successional plant species popping up. One of those, I believe, is Datra. I think that's what some folks called it. I didn't actually do like the picture of this app and check it out, so I'm just going off of what I was told. But it's like a very stemmy plant that has moderately large leaves. They're not like the pigweed, I think as it's called, where it's like a dinner plate size leaf. But it really helped me last year keep water in the soil. So I had done this last year where I put some seed out and this Datra stuff grew up. And it worked out really well for me. And it was fantastic because it like kind of protected the soil from all the sun and helped it grow better, I believe, this summer. And I think it's doing the same thing. Now, if I say that it's maybe not even worth it to put seed at all, then why am I doing it a second year? Well, it's still, the Datra isn't a super fantastic forage for the cows. It's not super high in protein and nutrients, I don't believe. So that's why I'm not just solely letting it go. Plus, in the early weeks of this growth, it was all grass seed that I had planted that was growing up, and like almost no first successional plant species. So if I have done this before, why am I doing it this way instead of the way I've done it before? So as you see here, I'm just cultipacking, and I didn't disc, I didn't plow, I didn't do any of that. And I have disced up before ground and then planted right into the disc ground and then used the cultipacker. And the cultipacker is fantastic because if it's really light and fluffy soil, it basically leaves you with rows, like seed bed rows, as if you had used a planter or a drill of some type. Now, and you could see those rows sort of in this clip here. So it does look like it was doing a good job, but the reason I didn't disc or plow ahead of time is you see these really dark patches and then you see the really light patches. I had a heck of a time with almost sinkholes, basically. Not quite sinkholes, but basically sinkholes. The four-wheeler just completely got stuck, and that's why I didn't add a bunch of weight to it. I couldn't add a bunch of weight because the four-wheeler just gets stuck, and you may say, well, then start at the top of the hill and drive down. It's like, okay, that would work, but then I still have to drive up. So I either have to drive up in the same spot, like on this left-hand side, every single time, or I'd have to drive up in the grass, which is going to add additional compaction to your soils, and that's what I'm trying to help eliminate with some of these seeds that I'm putting down and just seeding it in general. So that's why I didn't do it this time. It was just too wet for tractors. Plus, I do not actually own a disc. I had to borrow a disc last time to be able to do this, so it just wasn't working out quite the way I wanted it to work out, but it'll end up being exactly what I need. So here's a little better video of what I'm actually talking about, where like I just have wet patches. So you can see the really crazy dark patch right in front of me, and then I'll show you guys some dry patches literally like 2 feet from a crazy wet patch. I believe these crazy wet patches are from where round bales sat and where the cows really incorporated all of the organic matter into the soils. And I think the dry patches are where there's not as much organic matter from round bales that got incorporated into the soils. Now, some of you may say that this is bad practice because you've completely destroyed a ground. Well, what do these grain farmers do? What do these row crop farmers do? They till the soil up. In this situation, I'm just using cow hooves. Like right here was the problem that I'm showing. That's concrete and that's a sinkhole, and they're 2 feet apart. But that's why I'm okay with this. And if I hadn't said it already, last year and 2 years ago, I believe I just put grass seed out and the cows just stomped it in for me. I didn't even have to worry about getting out here with a seeder or a cultipacker or anything like that. It just worked. So you guys do have options. If you wanted to seed something into the ground like this, this is an option. A little cultipacker with a four-wheeler or even a small four-wheel drive tractor probably would have worked. I just don't have one. So, and again, this isn't perfect. This isn't ideal, but it's better than just throwing the seed on top and then not incorporating it at all, or having to time it perfectly with a big rainstorm to where your cows can incorporate it for you, and it just becomes a giant disaster at that point, because then you're relying on the cows' accuracy and all of that. So, but like I say, folks, there is some shorts of this growing up and grown already, so please go check those out, see the results in basically real time. I will try and do more updates on this. I should be able to get a grazing out of it here maybe next month or 2 months, depends on the rotation schedule, and we'll see how that all looks, because I'm very curious to see if it looks any better or any worse than it did last year. So, alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.